Our first guest, D.W. Brown, began his career in film with terrific performances in movies like Fast Times at Ridgemount High. And he's also an accomplished writer and director, having completed a new film titled In Northwood, to be released soon. And alongside his wife, he's the founder of the Joanna Baron D.W. Brown Studio, one of the most acclaimed schools of acting in the U.S. And Mr. Brown shares his wealth of experience and knowledge on the craft of acting in his new book, You Can Act, a complete guide for actors, which you can purchase on our homepage by clicking the book's front cover icon. And it is a fantastic book. It is the most clear, concise, and entertaining book I've ever read on the craft of acting. And none other than our good buddy Jeff Goldblum praised the book. And he said, reading D.W. Brown's lovely and miraculous book and seeing acting through his brilliant eyes, I found myself again passionate for the nuts and bolts of craft and the simple beauty of expression he so gorgeously clarifies. That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
It's a good book. Here's our conversation with Mr. Brown.
Well, the first performance I saw that inspired me was my dad, who was actually a pediatric cardiologist doing community theater. But I have that burned into my brain, remembering my dad doing the Dyer Van Frank and being just shocked to my core that it was possible to do such a thing. You know, I knew my dad was a clown around the house, but to see him do his thing in front of an appreciative group of strangers, that really was what I think ignited my passion for the craft of acting. I pursued acting out in Los Angeles. I actually began pre-med, but then abandoned it for my first love, and came out to Los Angeles and got involved in the theater company and did a few things. Did the movie Fast Times at Ridgemount High as an actor, and met my wife 23 years doing a film. But then I got in the theater company and got more involved in directing and writing, and so I got drawn to that aspect of it all, and my wife was an acting teacher. I'd always worked with Lee Strasberg and his method. I'd worked with Lee himself in the Actors Studio and the Strasberg Institute. But then I became a convert to this technique that my wife introduced me to, which is called the Meisner technique, which was founded by a guy named Sanford Meisner at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. And so I became enthralled with that system, and so I studied that technique, and subsequently became a teacher of the Meisner technique with my wife at the Joanna Baron D.W. Brown Studio currently in Santa Monica.
Tell me about Meisner. Tell me how Meisner differs from, you mentioned Strasberg or Stanislavski's method.
Well, Stanislavski started it all in the way of formalizing this thing called method acting, which is the pursuit of truthfully living under imaginary circumstances, where you're not just going to indicate a performance, not just externally demonstrate behavior, but you as a performer are going to try to really engage your emotional life and really live through those circumstances. And so Stanislavski founded this at the Moscow Art Theater. There's actually a guy named Duke George from Austria who introduced him to that technique in the 1870s. And then he went to Moscow and formalized it there at the Moscow Art Theater, and then they toured in New York, and these guys in New York, Strasberg and Meisner and Stella Adler and Bobby Lewis and Harold Clurman, they started this thing called the group theater to bring Stanislavski's work to the United States, and that philosophy that plays didn't have to be about aristocrats, it could be about ordinary people, and simple situations could be very compelling. And so that was the school. It was taken from Stanislavski's work, and then it split up through the egos and the various philosophies of the teaching, where Strasberg wanted to be always an actor working from the direct material from his life, in addition to this thing called sensory work, where you would elicit emotional responses in yourself by sensorially recreating, like rain on your neck or whatever, and that could elicit an emotional response. And Meisner went more with what Stanislavski was doing, and a series of improvisational exercises and fantasy, and saying an actor didn't have to rely on the actual facts of their life to emotionalize themselves. They could fantasize and engage in fanciful daydreaming that might even get them deeper and hooking them into archetypical emotional realities and not just they're limited to their own life. And so that was kind of the split. And Meisner was very clear that he had this program that was a 2-year program, and at the end of it, he would boot you out. So it was, like medical school. You don't just hang around forever. You learn how to become a doctor, and then you keep up with your studies, but you start interning and then practicing the thing. And the Strasbourg school had more of a cult kind of aspect to it, that people would be there for years and years and years, and not get weaned away. And so this is what I liked about the Meisner technique. It's very clean psychologically. It is absolutely requiring an actor to use their true, deep feelings, their pain, their rage, their joy, but that it has the safety net of it being an imaginative experience, and that it's very disciplined and clean, and saying, okay, we're going to teach you these craft techniques, and then we're going to say, go out there and practice those things. We don't want you hanging around here, moping around as the troubled actor. We want you getting you out there and putting it into practice.
Yeah, but even so, I know that you still, some of your former students still come to you for instruction,
oh, sure.
or for advice, and acting seems to be an ongoing journey of self-discovery, no matter how long you've been doing it. And I'm curious, for you, when you were starting as a young actor, what was the biggest learning curve for you starting out?
Well, it was the moment at which I realized that it was going to not be just, me being cute and putting on a funny hat and getting people to like me, but that it was going to be actually demanding. And that I encountered when I was a teenager. I had a very unusual situation, which was an actor from New York had come to Tucson and started teaching this hardcore method acting, and he wasn't going to put up with me being cute and doing my little children's theater kind of shtick. And so I remember that event of going, oh, wow, really getting emotional in performance and really feeling the difference between being outside of a performance and really living it, and how painful it is really to go through the experiences of the character you're portraying. That it really is very challenging. It's not just like, selling shoes. There really is a challenge to it, like being a nurse or somebody who has to deal in the darker aspects of life, and that's the calling, So that's the early, really tremendous epiphany I had, that it's an art.
Well, I heard Peter O'Toole say something a few years ago, and I don't know if it's a quote that originated from him or not, but he said that actors are human beings, only more so. And not so much that they're better or worse than other people, but I think it is their job to experience life in a manner that others try to avoid a lot of times. Yeah. Who are actors? I know everyone's different, but from your perception, who are actors? What commonalities do they share?
Well, there's a funny kind of mythology. People say, I could act because I act all the time in life, and the truth is, actors should be very bad liars. That there's something about them that is unable to disengage from the truth. We have a mechanism that we're trained in early childhood to dissociate, to not reveal who we really are by dissociating, disconnecting from our feelings. And you can watch this in psychology, is the age at which children learn to lie. There's an age at which it's impossible for a child to lie. And then we develop that talent, and they even have classes at the CIA on how to fool lie detector tests, is to practice the talent for dissociating. Whereas an actor is, what the talent is that they are so intimately connected to the human truth all the time. They can't separate themselves. So when something happens to them, that impulse flushes through their entire body, much in the way of a child. Again, like as you say, the Peter O'Toole quote, Picasso said, "It took me 60 years to learn how to paint like a child." It really is just more so in the way that Peter O'Toole is saying, it's living and more so. It's really to get back to that child reality where life was so vivid and the highs were so high and the lows were so low, and you're really living in that high-pitched way. and there is no tomorrow, and it's all about what's going on right here, right now, in this moment. And most great disciplines are, living in the moment, and acting is no exception. That it really is about being connected to specifically another person and what's going on with them in the subtextual world and what's going on right here and now, and my immediate response to that truth.
Mm-hmm. And I think just the word acting or actor, it brings to mind a very kind of presentational quality, but actors really have to be students of behavior. Is that right?
Exactly. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And what role does life experience place in that journey?
Well, it's definitely a part of that. You can tell great actors have often been marked by pain. A lot of great comedians have been marked by tremendous pain. I saw Stephen Colbert talking about this. So he lost his dad and an older brother in a plane crash when he was very young, and he said at that point, when you've been dealt such a blow in life, you have to, the little rules that the teacher's telling you about getting in line for your milk don't mean that much to you anymore. And so a lot of comedians have had tremendous tragedy in their background. I think a lot of actors probably have been marked by that too. And so it's maybe made them deeper, maybe made them a little bit more sadder, wiser in connecting to the human condition, and given them something to draw on. And it may have been that they've gone into acting as a way of expressing this thing. In my book, I talk about what motivates an actor, and I break it down into 3 aspects. You have the need to show off and to perform, and that is to impact other people, to make a mark on other people, to go, look, I'm over here. I'm alive, Mm-hmm. And you might call that narcissism. And another motivating factor in acting is to get feelings out, to express things, to live in fantasy, and to have an opportunity to get this expression out. And the actors have found that in this fantasy world it was okay, whereas maybe they couldn't express their pain or their rage or even their silliness in the world. It was okay when it was done in fantasy.
Yeah.
And so I think, if someone has had tragedy in their life, been impacted by life, they have something to express, and they can put that into in their art. Just to wrap it up, the third one is thrill seekers, the adrenaline rush. There's a certain type
Mm-hmm.
of person who likes, racing motorcycles, and getting out on stage in front of a group of people is an adrenaline rush also.
The business obviously has changed over the decades. The films that are produced more often than not have changed certainly from the 70s. And I'm thinking, with the young people that you instruct, what are they wanting from the craft? What is their perception of their place as an actor?
Well, it is a very different world, and you're exactly right. There was something about that vitality of the 70s that seems to have been lost. We don't have that many great actors of that generation. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a great actor in the way that our great actors have been, but there's been in my opinion, a paucity of that kind of really raw, scary, fantastic talent.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, today it's the same thing it probably has always been, really. It's just that, I hate to put it this way and seem like a grouch, but maybe people have had it soft. I think we are living in a golden age. They've not been touched by war or famine or,
Right.
But I think, people coming to acting are looking for the same thing. They are looking to get that connection. There's that feeling of getting outside themselves and be a participant in something bigger than themselves. And this thing of just playing moments, being in the moment, is a way of getting out of your head and participating in the world and forgetting about, what I'm going to do tomorrow and my little concern of how yesterday went, and really connecting to the here and now, which is so vital in acting, where you have this vivid presentation of events unfolding right in front of you, and your participation in those events.
The journey of the craft of acting, it has lessons that apply to everyone, just like what you said about living in the moment. And I'm curious, people that aren't necessarily interested in pursuing acting as a career, do they benefit from your instruction? Have you found?
Yes. I mean, almost to the last person, everyone will say who's been through our program that everybody should do this, not just actors. If you read that book, Blink, it's very much like this. It taps you into this deeper mind. It's not just this little frontal lobe spotlight that Western society emphasizes. You can access this tremendous power of your intuition and connection. And people say, I mean, no joke, over and over how the training has saved their life. And not just in a general way, well, now I'm living the life I should have been living, but absolutely in the middle of a car accident, they say their reaction time has been better. One of our guys was in a bank robbery, and he said that his connection to the bank robber, he could feel the bank robber relax with him, feeling like, okay, this guy's tuned into me. I'm not going to have to hurt him because we're on the same wavelength.
Right.
All kinds of things like that. One of my gals said she was about to be hit by a car in a crosswalk and started to freeze up, and then said, no, this is really happening. I got to do something right now, and jumped up, and so she bounced off the front of the car instead of getting crushed underneath this car going 30 miles an hour. So just, in pure ways like that you trust your reactiveness, that you're no longer just, trying to name things and label things and be a good little boy or girl and make the right move, but you can trust your gut, as they say, and start participating. And so that's good for everything. It's good for sales. I mean, that you stay connected to your customer and you're not just like trying to shove the product down their mouth, but you get what's going on with them. You can read emotional signals, what they call develop emotional intelligence, which is valuable in everything. So people say it saves their relationships. Somebody's said, my boyfriend was feeling a little bit weird, and I just asked that extra question, and he said, yeah, he was going to call his ex-girlfriend. Little tiny things like that. That little tiny moment that can make all the difference because you're tuning in.
It really is about living in the present and experiencing your life more fully.
Yeah.
Which I think you're speaking to. So many great principles and lessons in this book, and I want to ask you about a couple of the situations and that you discuss in the book. Auditioning. The audition process doesn't seem to be conducive necessarily to the actor bringing out their best, just by its very nature. What are some tips to overcome those kinds of nerves and give your best in an audition?
Well, there's auditioning is its own kind of thing. It's funny. We just happened to run into Dustin Hoffman about an hour ago. I taught his daughter, and he spoke at the school. And when he said that it's just a necessary evil, but when people audition, you can have people who are really good at auditioning, but that's all you're going to get because they're like fast sketch artists. Whereas a real painter will take a great deal of time to layer his painting or an actor layering his performance. So some of the greatest actors just can't audition. They just cannot do it in an audition, and they rely on people seeing previous material that they've done. They're just never going to be. And I'll help people cast. They'll get my wife and I to help them cast, and so we'll watch the tapes of people, and we'll see people we know are fantastic actors just completely tank an audition and look unrecognizable. You can't even see that they're talented at all when we know for a fact they're hugely talented. So it's just, that's just the nature of the beast. So you try to assemble, work and have tape so that people can see what you're really like. And thank goodness that's coming up more and more, and, it's on all these websites that you can put your demo reel and people can see that you can really act or not. But how I coach people to auditions, I tell them you want to walk in the room and audition the same way a doctor comes into audition for you on, let's say, doing a knee surgery, is you don't want him walking in there asking for your validation that he be a doctor, asking you a lot of questions about how you think he ought to do it. You want to get the feeling that he doesn't need you, that he's going to, tell you this is how we do the surgery, and you can go with him or not. But So in the same way, you don't want to be putting all that vibration out there on the people auditioning you that you need their approval, that you need their validation to be an actor. You want to give them the message, I'm going to be fine and dandy without you. You let me do this part. I'll put the harness on, and you never need to talk to me again because I'm just going to be doing my thing. And people have, a lot of people, the vast majority of people, truthfully, know very, very little about acting who are involved in movies. Very few people, even the very few directors, really understand the process of acting. So they don't want to have conversation with you. It's like, I don't want to talk to my electrician. I just want him to do his thing. And so actors have to be secure in that and not feel like if the people aren't talking to them, that it's because they don't like them, that they're not approving of them. That they have to kind of quell that anxiety and that desire to be validated and be okay on their own. And again, putting out that message that you don't, it's like dating, you have to put out the message that you don't really need them that bad.
In terms of theater and film, those are two different disciplines, but the principle of behaving honestly applies to both, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And for my technique, it's just a matter of adjustment. So if you're playing acoustic guitar, it's the same thing as playing an electric guitar. You just have certain adjustments that you have to make. I think it's that all great acting really gets back to the same place. You're meeting every requirement, every demand of the part technically, and yet you're bringing something very personal and very human from yourself to it. So yes, you may have to project to the back of a large theater, or you may have to do an exacting, French or German accent that is appropriate to the part. But these are just adjustments that you have to take on as an actor. And really, there is no difference, except for, like I said, those little adjustments between film acting and good theater acting.
Yeah, and on the stage, your audience is another character in a sense, aren't they?
Yeah, there is that reality. You have to project a widening focus. You have to make sure that you're bringing them in. Whereas in the cinema, you're going to project a narrowing focus and just try to bring it down to the single eye of the person playing opposite you, and much more subtle and not projecting that performance. But it's still living through a performance. It still is endeavoring to say, if this really was going on, how would I feel about it, and what might I do?
We were speaking to Bill Pullman last week, and I asked him how the journey of discovery differs now for him than when he was a young actor. And in terms of technique, he said that he tends not to take on the whole world when he's building a character anymore. There's a lot more economy in his work. Is that what you should be shooting for ultimately?
Well, probably so. And that's a master understanding, specificity, and just getting to what I need. And, just like an athlete, I'm only going to use the muscles I need. I'm not going to be tense throughout my whole body like a rookie. I'm only going to do exactly what I need to do to be effective. So that's Bill, giving the master's point of view is I only do what I need to do to be effective, and then I can be more effective because I'm relaxed and allowing the performance to come through me.
Yeah. And you're directing, or you have directed several projects,
yes.
But you just completed one, Northwood, is it?
Yeah, it's called In Northwood, and we're in post now. I'm doing editing, and it stars Nick Stahl and Olivia Wilde, and my wife Joanne Barron is in it, and a fantastic actor, Dash Myhawk, and another unbelievably brilliant actor, Pruitt Taylor-Vince, and Shohreh Aghdashloo, nominated for an Academy Award for House of Sand and Fog, Iranian actress, and it takes place in an institution for the criminally insane, and it's a piece that I wrote and directed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They have tax breaks.
Is that all part of the same process for you? Does it complete you and satisfy you in the same way, directing and writing and acting?
Well, writing's a little bit different, and acting is different. People ask me, there's nothing like acting. Acting really is like being a soldier, There's nothing like the adrenaline of being an actor and being on the front line, and when all those eyes turn to you, and you can't just step away and go, let me think about this for a moment. Let me go get a cup of coffee, and it's like now, baby, there's no tomorrow. Nobody cares whether you feel like it or not. You got to step up. So acting is its own crazy, wild, wonderful thing. Nothing like that. And writing, as any writer would tell you, is lonely. It's a lonely, frustrating kind of thing. You work and work and work, and you think you finished something, and then you show it to people, and they go, "Oh, it's nice, but this is all wrong," and then you're just back to the drawing board. And I really feel in my element when I'm directing. So just me personally, it's one of those kinds of things. You probably know you're doing something you're built for if you look at the clock and like 6 hours have gone by and it seems like 5 minutes. And that's the way it is when I'm directing. It's like, was that really only 12 hours? I mean, we could keep going, couldn't we? And no. So all the aspects of directing are, marshaling the forces and all, putting it to orchestrating to just capture that event, just get that moment captured.
Yeah.
And I just love actors, and I love being part of that process. It's why I love teaching acting, is just be in the thick of it with creative people like that.
That's what I was going to say. Your love of directing has to stem from your connection to and your empathy for the actor. And you've had a lot of, talking about your studio, you have a lot of guest speakers that come in, guest instructors, people like Anthony Hopkins and Sean Penn, and directors have spoken there many times. I think I saw a clip of Sidney Pollack. And what do your students want to know from these people for the most part?
How to get an agent, usually. That's the first question. What it is that makes somebody really great. What is the thing that sets somebody off? And it usually is the fact that they have that kind of confidence. That's what they'll tell them. That you keep banging away at it. And I mentioned Blink, a Gladwell book. He's got his latest book is called Outliers. It's about people who have excelled at various aspects of life, and it seems to come back to the people who just keep banging away at it. He says that you got to put in 10,000 hours, it seems, to be the figure, and that you just keep banging away at it. And there's another book like that called Talent is Overrated, where you just keeping on. And people will ask me, a girl asked me this yesterday when I was evaluating her. She goes, can you tell me if I'm going to be successful, if I have what it takes to be successful? And it so happens that I could tell her that, that she had enough going on so that she could start working professionally and at this moment never stop working. But what's partly exciting about what I do is I really can't tell who's got it and who doesn't have it, because this talent can be laying dormant, and it just may take a while for the cultivation of it to produce fruit. I had a little scrappy tree in my backyard. I never knew it was a peach tree. It stands about like 7 feet tall until it produced a peach. And I went, well, damn, look at this thing. It's been here like 7 years, and I had no idea what this was. And it's the same way with an actor. You never know when the water's going to hit the seed. It's going to get the right nutrients, and boom, something can happen. There will be those people who come into the school. Robin Wright Penn, when she came into class, I knew immediately this girl's, a force. But other people, Leslie Mann, I wouldn't say that about. Leslie struggled. Mariska Hargitay is very open about how she struggled in class with us, and for 2 years was struggling, wasn't sure if she had it, and yet, look at her now. She's able to do amazing stuff. You can't underestimate craft. I think, there's this silly kind of talk that gets, you can't teach acting. It's you either have it or you don't have it. But it really is, there's all these stories about Michael Jordan, getting cut from his high school basketball team, and Einstein flunking, and all these kinds of stories that you hear, and it's the same thing. You got to cultivate it. You got to keep applying, the fertilizer and the water and the sunshine and amazing things can happen.
Yeah. Well, I love your book, and we're going to our listeners can purchase your book by clicking on an icon on our homepage during the show. And best of luck with the book and your school and your film in Northwood, and come back and check in with us again.
I would love to.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you. It's been great.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.